You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, I'm going to put a call into a very important person, a very important football person and a very interesting person for a whole lot of reasons. But before I start, I won't saddle him with just a couple of things I spoke to, just have spoken to Dick from Muff, and I could not think of the man who I was trying to think of, the ex-footballer who had a restaurant and gave Dan Andrews a nice kicking. Paul Dimatina, of course. I had a mental block, so Paul, I'm sorry I forgot your name. I know you well. Don't know you too well, but I know you are. He had Lamaro's restaurant. I'm not sure if Lamaro's is still up and running. It is still up and running. I've been nodded. Sue Stanley OAM has nodded that it is. It's a very good restaurant. I've been there, and he is a very good restaurateur. There's no N in restaurateur. It's restaurateur, if you think I misspoke. So that was Paul, and just a couple of quick shout-outs. Mick, MichaelChristianMenswear.com sent me had me and Sue absolutely worried. He said there was a race meeting in Ballarat a couple of weeks ago and it was the Vale Don Scott Maiden Plate. Vale meaning you're dead. Vale Don Scott. And I rang Mick, I said, no. I haven't heard from Don till the great warding off here, but surely would have heard if the great Don Scott had the Hawthorne Leviathan was no longer with us.
So what did he mean by Vale?
Vale means you're dead.
Yeah, but
it's
what
his
is the
memorial.
race?
Well, it was in memory of Don Scott, but it was the different Don Scott, which gave us a sigh of relief. And just a quick shout out to Lachlan. I can't mention his surname. He said, don't mention my surname, Potter. Lachlan is a young economist. I'm not sure what the difference between an economist and accountant is, but Lachlan's going under the title of economist. And he wants to know when I'm running for Premier. Oh, good on you, Lachlan. So a shout out to him. He's got one of our very, very sought after hats. You cannot be serious hats. And also now Zach has got one of our. Zach said he was listening to Paul Murray. Paul Murray is a friend of mine. Well, I don't know him that well, but he's a fan of You Cannot Be Serious.
Is he a comedian?
No, Paul Murray is the great news broadcaster on Sky.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, Paul Murray. I've dined with Paul at a place called
Hoofty Doofty.
What?
You hoofty doofty with him. Wined and dined with him.
Doofty. No, at the place in Flinders Lane, I think it's called, or Little Burke Street, or Little Collins Street. It's called the New York Steak Bar or something, or I can't think of what it is. Him and a whole lot of other people in the media. So good on you, Paul. He's going great, I know that. So anyhow, so I'm just going to put this call into it. So I just thought I'd tidy those things up there. So here we go. I'm going to ring this man. Let's hope he answers the phone. Here we go. You're going to have to... Here we go.
Hello.
Now, hello. I haven't. I've just been announcing that I'm speaking to a very important person for a whole lot of reasons. So I'm just going to bear with me for a minute. Now, this is. I'm not ringing up to interview him. Incidentally, I'm ringing up because I want to get his take on a few things that have happened over the season. Because whether you like it or not, AFL went gangbusters this year. Crowds are up, ratings are up. Whether you like the football or not's a different thing, or the way AFL are going, it doesn't matter. But that's just a fact of life. Now, this man, his list of credentials in the football world are just too big to mention, too vast to mention. Other than the fact that I'll just tell you, he played 272 AFL games, 28 of them for a club over the border in Adelaide. He captained his club for 9 years, and he played in 2 premierships. When you think about how they're going, that is, at the minute, that is a monumental feat. He talks the talk, but the public don't get to hear him a lot these days because he, like a lot of others, he operates under one set of rules by the people who employ people, and other people operate on another set of rules. I could mention a string of people who have done just as many things that preclude them from being in the media as this person, temporarily. And that's how hypocritical this media landscape we live in is. We're ducking and diving, but this person doesn't duck and dive, and he's a star. And he's a friend of mine, and he is known as the King. And we all live in this man, Wayne's world. And welcome to the podcast, Wayne Carey.
G'day, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Now, I thought I'd appreciate you doing this. I thought I'd just give you a call to see what you made of the season, any insights into where things are headed, things that have bemused you or bewildered you, not necessarily in football, but just thought I might chew the fat with you, because I don't think I've done this in recent memory. I see you at a lot of functions over grand final week, and we have a chat to the assembled gathering. We just go from one function to another, seeing the same faces who steadily get more pissed, and have a great day and a great grand final week. Unfortunately, Wayne, we're lucky we did. I don't suppose you went to the grand final, did you?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, when I saw you, Sam, I think I was on my third function. So you're right. By the end of the day, where I was a little bit under the weather.
No, I wasn't saying you were pissed, Wayne. I was saying functions.
I will say that I was. By the time I got to that third function, I made myself a promise at the first function, and then I got to the second one, and that promise had dwindled. So by the time I saw you at Johnny Rombotis,
Vanilla,
out at Vanilla, I was probably a little pickled.
No, Wayne,
thank you. No, but you, as you normally do, you carried the show, and the crowd absolutely loved you, which I thought was fantastic, and that was a good night. But as you said, a very busy week.
Yes, I hesitate to say I wasn't saying you were pissed. I was saying all the people that you go and see in the crowd, they start off pressing the flesh and chatting to you, and then by the end of the night, and good on them, the end of the day or the functions, and this is what's great about Whanawau, they come and they barrel you about crap, and if you don't have a drink, you're best to drink and steadily get pissed with them. But I don't drink, so I'm a hammering. I get hammered, and I love it too. I love it.
I know you weren't talking about me. I was just putting my hand up.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's good. Yeah.
That's all.
So we just at that show, Vanilla. It was. Rombotis assembled a cavalcade of people. There were probably 9 of the best footballers. You could actually write a case for 9 of the best footballers AFL footballers that have ever played the game ever.
Yeah, I concur.
If I can remember them, there was you, right? Arguably, the best. Then there was Dipper. Dipper got up and spoke. I never understood one word, and I don't think he'd been drinking. I never understood one word Robert Dipiomenico said. He
probably slips down the chain in comparison to the list that Rombo had.
Yes, but he was maybe the great Greg Williams.
Yes, he was there. The Lord Mayor, the new Lord Mayor.
Cooter.
Yep.
How's he going, Cooter? Does he look like he's going to take the buttered confection?
Well, like you, Sam, I keep my ear to the ground, and I just like to follow the news, all news. So I like to follow the politics in America, and I don't necessarily follow politics here in Australia. Although I do follow your politics, which we'll get to.
Oh yes.
But I have followed Cooter. I tell you what, he's making a lot of promises. You've been away on your boat.
I have.
You've been on Gilligan's Island, and just sort of floating across the oceans. But no, Cooter's doing a good job. He's making a lot of promises. I think he's given out free coffee to the whole of Melbourne. He's promising a lot of stuff. If he fulfills his promises, then he'll be the best Lord Mayor I think Melbourne's ever had.
It's beside giving away free coffees. If he could, clean up the city, get the graffiti, get the litter bugs, get the people who protest on every street corner, get the people who sleep in the doorways who are homeless, try and find some alternative things, get rid of most of the bike tracks, bike lanes that are choking up the city so that people can come back into it. If you got onto stuff like that, that'd be great. Free coffees are great. It's no good giving out free coffees if the city is a ghost town because no one comes into it because of the ridiculous bike tracks, the ridiculous protests, the ridiculous restrictions, the ridiculous parking fines, the antisocial thugs that wander through the city and knifing people and hitting them over the head and robbing them. If he could just concentrate on a couple of things like that, he might get through.
He has made some problems. I think he's giving out free fitness lessons, all sorts. He wants to get Melbourne fitter, but his message is he just wants to get people back to the city. But I agree with all of that messaging that you just gave, in particular the parking guys and women, because I just tell you what, it is ridiculous. I got a fine just the other day. Can you believe it?
Okay, yeah.
I parked 10 minutes. So I was 10 minutes in to the hour of which I was allowed to park there, and I got a fine apparently for not parking correctly. So can you believe that? So I looked at how I was parked. I was parked within the two lines of which I was, meant to park in between, and for whatever reason, I was probably, 30 centimetres off being, not maybe back far enough. That's all I could see. That may be something they could pick up on. But can you believe that I got a ticket for that? I will be complaining about that one. I don't complain about a lot, but I think I might have to write a letter on that one.
So if you're $200 billion in debt, the state have got to get their money back somehow. Maybe Cooter could give complimentary theodolites, which are things you measure land by, and so that when you enter the city, you can get your theodolite out and see if you are parked within the actual space that is allotted to you as a car park.
So what he'll win by a landslide if he gets rid of the parking attendants. Let's put it that way.
And the bike tracks. The bike tracks are choking St Kilda Road. No one rides a bike in the winter. Why would you? Get your rug blown off. You've got a helmet on, I suppose. You get that blown off as well. You get soaked. By the time you get to work, you take half an hour to dry down. No, it is a joke. And if you want to get people into the city, just keep fining them for ridiculous things like that, and see if you can put some more bike lanes in. That should render the thing completely a ghost town by the end of the year.
It'd be just nice, Sam. I don't know. You do speak my language in a lot of instances. In particular, the bike stuff. I drive down Beach Road, Beaconsfield Parade, quite a bit, and there is a bike track, as you know, that runs from Port Melbourne all the way down to Black Rock. In actual fact, further, and it still bemuses me why bikes have to ride on the road, or they're allowed to ride on the road, given there is no bike lane on that road.
Yep. That is true, and we will cut them some slack if there's no proper bike lane. But I'll draw the line at when they ride 3 and 4 abreast, so that they make sure that they take up the only available lane. And when there's cars parked in the lane that they're in, they just ride out into the lane that you're in. They absolutely should not be allowed to drive in the outside lane, which is exclusively reserved for cars. But if you yell out at them, they kick the side of your car, and by the time you work out who did it, that's it. That's just another thing, another battle in the city of getting to the panel beater and saying, who did that? I said, I don't know, bloke kicked the door in as he drove past. So it's going beautifully. Wayne, now I was just getting on to Sue Stanley is sitting here listening to this, and she is on the trip with me, of course, and she's got a foot in Nick how am I going? Jesus, sorry, Nick Reese's camp. Not standing, just as a. I think, can I say, you're doing a bit of consultancy work if he gets in on not fitness but healthy well-being.
Been working on a couple of his policies. Yes.
Yes. So So there's not a conflict of interest here because Sue's got no skin in the game. She's just happy to give someone a hand if they need it because she knows a bit about fitness and well-being. But it's not so much fitness, it's a healthy lifestyle, Sue.
Well, Lord Mayor's realistically don't do anything, do they? It's really, they're just the figurehead.
They're titular heads, Wayne. They cut ribbons and kiss babies.
Yeah, look, we know all about that. Like I said, I probably steer away from politics within Australia. I'm more fascinated with what's going on the other side of the world, which affects the rest of the world.
Fantastic.
But I do have to tell you, I was walking through at Albert Park this morning, Sam, and this lady, and I can say elderly lady because she was a little bit older than me. And she pulled me up and she said, "Have you been listening to Sam's podcast?" And I said, "Well, I do keep an ear on it."
Yep.
I said, "Funnily enough, I'm talking to Sam this morning."
Oh,
said,
really?
Really? So you talk about coincidences, and that was she'll be tuning in. So I'm just sort of
What's
give her
her
a little
name?
bit of a shout out. I didn't get her name. I didn't stick around and have a full-on conversation.
Well,
but
a mature-aged woman spoke to you in Albert Park, and she was a pleasant woman, and you're just saying hello to her.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
good on you, darling.
She'll tune in.
Yep.
She'll listen. She listens to you every week. So how did you find that grand final, Sam? I did see somewhere that you didn't attend.
I'm going to get onto that, mate. I'm just going to finish the vanilla. So I didn't understand a word Robert Di Domenico went. These Greg Williams, by all accounts, just one of the top. I don't know what number you'd give him, but there was the man that you had seemed to have respect for, maybe because you tailed him up every time you played him, and he made a name for himself and he made a name for himself getting tailed up by you every time, but you had great, I think, respect for Glenn Jakovich, who was there, who was a star for the West Coast Eagles.
He was, and yes, I do have a great deal of respect for Jacko. Got to know him after football. Didn't really know him when we played against one another, but he actually has a personality, believe it or not. I always thought he was a bit like RoboCop. I actually thought he was a machine for a little while.
But you'd intimidated. But if you ran onto the ground when you played on someone, no one plays on anyone these days. But if you ran onto the ground and you were assigned to pick up the great Wayne Carey when the North Melbourne centre forward, and you wandered down, I reckon you'd give him pretty short shrift, mate. I don't think there'd be a lot of conversation or shaking of hands or saying all the best. Hope you go well today. I think he'd be pretty intimidated by playing on the King, wouldn't he?
Well, no, I'm not sure. Well, he's probably one that wasn't, to be honest. But these days, Sam, you actually help players up off the ground and you shake hands before the game and you laugh with them after the game.
And you're not allowed to call them names?
You take them out for dinner. I don't mind about not calling them names.
Really?
I think you should be able to talk to them about their football ability and tell them that some of them that they don't have any.
How did you possibly get a game? You're playing shit, all that stuff.
Yeah, you should be able to do all of that. But yeah, no, the niceties of the game today is gone to a level which, and I'm hoping, like other things in the world that are going on, I'm hoping that they correct themselves. I think they will. I'm not sure whether they're. I'm not sure whether they're coming back our way or not, but I've got to admit, a bit like yourself, I don't like seeing players help other players off the ground and picking them up and laughing with them after the game. And that might be old school, but I think if you've just lost a final or a big game that cost you a final, you shouldn't be having jokes with people after games. You should probably let it hurt a little bit before you take them out for dinner.
And I know I'm not asking you to necessarily comment on this, Wayne, but if the AFL could just stop race baiting everyone at the start of games by saying there's them and there's us and welcome to the ground and you're lucky to be here and gee, aren't we terrific and fantastic that you're here, but don't get too far ahead of yourself. If they could just stop all that nonsense before the game and we could all play under the one race of people, that would be fantastic. But that just seems to get bigger and bigger. Mind you, it's I've got a feeling that people are starting to get sick and tired of this nonsense that goes on because We are just one people, and we want to embrace everyone that is in the country, no matter where you are or what you look like. That is one of my. That is the AFL should be ashamed of themselves. They go on and on and on about it.
I know that you're very passionate about this, Sam, and I've listened to your commentary around it. I do a little bit of work with a lady, and I have done for some time now. People, I don't know, they might be surprised by this, but I continually work on myself, and I speak to a lady by the name of Tess Mallet, her name is, and she's a life coach. Not a psychologist, but there's psychology involved, I guess, and it's about working on yourself. And you know what? Things like, for instance, for yourself, welcome to country and other things. I don't know, like, for me, now, do I think it should be done everywhere, every time? Probably not. But does it bother me? No, it doesn't. There's nothing really in the world that and once again, this is just purely because I've done work on myself in this area, that I get really upset with, or if, whether it be an individual, whether it be something like welcome to country, whatever it may be, I just sort of allow people to, have their own emotions about it. I don't judge you for your view on it, but I don't let things upset me.
Fantastic. Mate, this is a very good comment, and you say it annoys the shit out of me, mate. I'll tell you, it just annoys it because it's contrived virtuosity. We just no need to apologise for being here and who we are. We want to get on together, and the thing about it to me is that every time it happens, it just shows you that we're divided, and I don't know why we keep doing it, but I absolutely take on board what you said. Now, Tess, I'm interested in what Tess. What
have you got a number, Wayne? I think
I do.
I think Sam needs a bit of assistance in this area.
Surprisingly enough, she would be because Sam's highly intelligent, and I think Tess. It's about working. It's all about working on yourself. And
what does she tell you to do, Wayne? How do you work?
Well, how do I work them? Well, I guess it's all. Well, it's about.
Don't worry about the things that I just said about welcome to country.
Yeah, well, correct. So not worrying about things that you have no control over. Clearly, Sam, you have no control over the AFL or anyone else for that matter. Wanting to do welcome to country, and whether it be Virgin Airlines or Qantas or the AFL or rugby or whatever it may be, you don't have control over it. So therefore, the emotions that spill out in you over that is something that you can control. Now,
I would just contend. Wayne, that we'll have a small amount of control over it. Maybe if enough people say this is unnecessary, we respect everyone that's here. Could you stop browbeating us about why we're here and why should we be here and should we be here at all? I think if enough people say, now please, this is not anti-racism. This is anti-racism on the other side. I believe this is we just don't want to be browbeaten as to the country we live in. We're here. Could we all get on?
What we are, and this is one of the things that Tess talks about. What we are is we're very judgmental people. This is how we're brought up. We're brought up to be judgmental, and whether it be how someone walks into a room, whether they're timid, what they're dressed in, what they look like, how they act, we judge within a second. Someone walks past you on Beaconsfield Parade, and they smile at you, and you walk past and you're happy for the next hour because they smiled at you. They don't smile at you, and you're down in the dumps and say, "Oh, geez, that rude so-and-so. Why didn't they smile?" And we allow people to make us feel like that, and yet we judge within like milliseconds, seconds, and that determines our mood or how we should feel about ourselves. And so that's some of the stuff that I've been working on for quite some time. So I no longer walk into a room, Sam, and I assume you've been like this for a long time, but I no longer care about what people think. And like I said, they judge about what they read or what they don't read. They think they know you, they don't know you. those thoughts and feelings for me, pardon the pun, are waning. They're not completely gone. They're not completely gone, but I'm getting better at not giving a stuff. And
well done.
And I don't say that in an arrogant way. I say that in a way that I'm more comfortable within myself now about not worrying about people's thoughts and what they think. And I know you've probably been there for a long time, so you're probably ahead of the game in that.
Yeah, head of the curve. I'm about the most judgmental person you'll ever meet. I could keep Tess in business for the next decade. Seriously. But I tell you what, Wayne, I want to... seriously, now this will sound like we're all just pulling each other's dicks. I want to congratulate you, mate. If you've realised that you just need a little help in some aspects of your life, I reckon, that, mate, you are to be congratulated, because you've had a pretty rough trot through the media side of the landscape. For, as I say, things I could give you a list of 20 people I know mightn't have just have transgressed and still keep their jobs, and no one speaks about it, or they just turn a blind eye to it. And suddenly the high-profile people, and you've had a couple of good incidents. I'll warrant you that. But I tell you what, have a look at some of the stands that are named after people, some of the functions that people get revered to and are mentioned all the time. Those people, they have some pretty skeletons in the closet as well, and it just seems to be there's a good set of rules for some and a good set for others. Yeah, and I guess for a period of time, Sam, and because a lot of what people think that, like once again, people judge off things that they've read in a paper that doesn't necessarily be held accountable for what they say or don't say. But that's where people get their information. They choose to believe that. So I guess for me, it's more about, and to agree with what you said, yes. But do I want those people to, just because certain things have been said about me that aren't factually true, and continue to be said that aren't factually true, should I remain bitter? Should I want those people to be held accountable? Of course I don't. What I have to do is deal with my own situation and understand who I am, and not sit in shame for the rest of your life. But you've actually got to move forward in life and not continue to sit in something that, some of the things that have been said, which were 20, 25 years ago. I mean, how long do you have to pay for mistakes for? So it's dealing with those, acknowledging, obviously, but I don't live in the past. I certainly don't live anymore in that past that long ago. And if I did, I'd be sitting there in my own tears and wouldn't be any good to anyone. So fantastic, mate. I reckon I've got a new vocation for you. You could be the new Jimmy Swaggart. You should get into the ministry. You could hold. I reckon you could fill the MCG. Billy Graham got 125,000 there. If you stood in the middle of that and they came to hear the thoughts of the great king, I tell you, a man who's turned his life. You could be the Messiah, mate. I reckon this is Jimmy Swaggart has got billions. He's tipped over. He's tipped over. This I'm not referring to you. Jimmy Swaggart has been infidelity has been his long suit. He's tipped over more Sheilas who go to the Jimmy Swaggart Memorial talks about. He's lived the life. He gets bigger and bigger. They love him. It's unbelievable.
Like I said, mate, it's
good.
Still, it's a journey. It's a journey for me. If you don't continue to learn or you don't continue to grow, then you're only going backwards.
You're fantastic. That's fantastic, mate.
That's my belief. But did you enjoy the grand final, Sam? So you didn't enjoy, obviously, the Welcome to Country. Did you enjoy the granny? What did you think of it?
And mate, if anyone can look you in the eye and say they enjoyed that crock of nonsense, that was crap. Now seriously, Wayne, unfortunately I'd had a taste of it 2 years before when I went and watched Geelong and the Swans, and the Swans just got tapped out to the tune of 80 points, and to back up and go and watch it 2 years later, and what is wrong with them? What is wrong with that? at some stage, whether the rules allow it or not, do you think someone might have shirt fronted or I think you're still allowed to bump people, are you? I'm not sure if you're allowed to bump people, but someone might have taken some...
You are allowed to bump people, Sam, as long as, and it can be a fair bump, as long as they don't hurt themselves, then it can be a fair bump and they hurt themselves and you get rubbed out, but it can be a fair bump and if they don't hurt themselves, you don't get rubbed out. So it's not the action that's penalised, it's the outcome, and that's the problem with the AFL, unfortunately, and that's all they have to change. If you're going to be consistent, then penalise the action, not the outcome, because some people have harder heads than others.
So this is Wayne. My point about the Swans was that they made no attempt to change the course of the game. It just went on. They were 60 points down at one stage, had no chance. I mean, were still chipping the ball around the back line, getting those cheap kicks and stats. Kicking it over there and then going across the other side of the ground and kicking it backwards. Well, they're just wasting their own time. I mean, why didn't they try and take the... I know it's easy to say this, and I have no idea why the game is played like it is. I honestly don't.
I think, look, well, in all fairness to Brisbane, they took the game away from them. It was, right from the start, they were stronger. I tipped Brisbane for what it's worth, and the reason why I tipped Brisbane, and ex-teammate of mine, Johnny Longmire, who now people are saying he's no good. He keeps getting into grand finals, but apparently he's no good. But Ken Hinkley and other people are. That amuses me that, this guy just keeps getting them there. He can't run out and mark the footy for them. In saying that, the reason why I tipped Brisbane was because I thought their forward line was, flimsy. Unfortunately, Marty and McDonald and those guys, I don't think they weren't great in the second part of the year. And if you look at form, Brisbane's second part of the year was way stronger than Sydney's. They relied on guys like Heaney to have unbelievable special efforts in finals to get them to that point. And unfortunately, he couldn't do it in the granny. And that's it in a nutshell. So for me, Brisbane were always going to win that granny. I didn't think by that margin. And in the end, Sam, you're right. I've played in one losing granny, and when you know that the game's lost, then probably the self-preservation kicks in, and maybe they were just kicking it around, just wanting to get the stats up so that it didn't look so bad on the stat sheet. But I have the utmost respect for John Longmire and the Sydney Swans. At the end of the day, they need to get a key forward that absolutely competes. If they can get that, then they'll be back there again next year.
Yes, well, John Longmire, once the game starts, he may as well he's just a passive bystander. That's unless you make the obvious moves that you can see. That I agree with that, but I have no respect for the Swans at all. Because they've dudded me twice in 2 grand finals.
Yeah. Okay,
that'll worry him, won't it? Yeah.
See, I grew up a South Melbourne supporter, being a Wagga boy. So there's always a soft spot. You don't ever forget the team you first barracked for.
No, I'm not. I have respect for the Swans. You wait, someone will grab hold of that. Sam Newman, no respect for the Swans. Yep. So I only just been bitten twice by them, but it won't worry me because I'm not going again. I got banned from going, as a matter of fact. I lost my I had my membership cancelled because I bought a ticket for someone and they said, oh, you can't give your ticket to anyone, and I've got suspended, so that won't worry me anyhow, so I won't be going. And now I'm sorry about this. I'm finishing quickly on the vanilla thing. The vanilla thing. There was Glenn Jakovich, and there was a very good, nice man called Isaac Smith, who has just been out of the game shortly, and Kevin Sheedy. Yep. Now, did you speak to Kevin? I spoke to more people at that function that I didn't understand what they were talking about. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the only one that's out of step. Kevin, I actually interviewed Kevin. I understood not one word of what he said, but that's probably me.
I'm a massive fan of Kevin Sheedy. I'm a big fan, and yes, Sheeds can speak in
tongues.
Yes, at times, but he knows what he's talking about. He invariably ends up back where, where he started. He corrects himself, and then we're all on the page. But what he's done for the game, Sam, you've got to admit.
Of course. I know he's a great friend of mine. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I asked him a couple of questions, and he's. I tell you what, Tess has done a marvellous job with you. You've given a pass to everyone that I've mentioned, even though I'm not sure what you think of them away from this forum. But you've been. She's to be congratulated. Tess?
Well, it's no. When you're talking about Sheed, I actually really, funnily enough, when we played against Essendon in the 90s, didn't probably dislike Sheed and the Bombers more than anyone. And then they say never meet your heroes. I'm not saying Sheed was a hero, but certainly had the utmost respect for him. And since I've known him after footy, I have even more respect. He's just he's really good company, gives people his time. You're right. You can get lost sometimes because his mind, I don't know whether he's a hell of a lot smarter than me or it just goes off in different directions.
He's the classic. He's Edward de Bono's disciple. Edward de Bono is the master of lateral thinking. He can get outside a problem and look down at it and bamboozle most people listening.
Yeah, well, that's so maybe that's what Sheed does to me.
He's beautiful.
But he's a good man, and you're right. It was a terrific night. Good way to finish a great Thursday, and then as you said, we probably a disappointing granny in the end, Sam.
Really? So Wayne. I want to ask you this. This has bemused me. Now, you might remember. Some decade ago, maybe, that a bloke called Dean Bailey got into trouble from the AFL because he said he was tanking the Demons by not playing their good players because they wanted to lose games so they could get the draft picks or something.
Yes,
I want to know. Great, very nice man. He's a friend of mine, so this is nothing personal with him. Why, when Richmond said that Dustin Martin didn't have to play the last games because Richmond couldn't make the finals, they finished last, they said he didn't have to play the rest of the games, he could have a rest because there was no point in him playing because they couldn't win. Why is it that, aren't you meant to put the best side on the ground to give your supporters a bit of hope that you might win a game every now and again? Or why did Richmond not get just asked to explain the rationale behind that? Or haven't you thought about that?
No, no, not really in terms of the tanking. I obviously know Dusty didn't play a lot of the footy in the last part of once he played his 300.
Yeah, they said you didn't have to play anymore.
Yeah, well, his body, whether his body had let him down or, there's probably a little bit of everything. I can't speak on behalf of Dusty. I don't know exactly. Well, I don't know exactly whether he was injured or not, Sam. But
no,
even if he was slightly injured, you're probably not going to play him. But to get to your point and not use Dusty as an example, I guess that is a form of, if you're not going to play your best team and they are fully fit, then that should be questioned. I agree. But if, at that time of the year, most players are carrying some sort of injury, as you well know, being a 300-game player. So if they are carrying some sort of injury...
What's the point?
Do you have to play them? Probably not. The one thing I will say about the tanking, and going back to all the way back to Bailey, is, players never tank. You know that. Yep. Players don't go out there and not try. Can they be played in a different position? Can the coach ultimately dictate? I guess the way they play because of where he plays them. Yes, all of the.
Or can they not play them at all? He might say.
Yeah. So in what you're saying in Richmond's case, and Dusty's probably without raining on your parade. Dusty's probably a bad example because I don't think his body was any good towards the end, and probably more importantly, his mind probably wasn't in it towards the end. So I don't think he'd trained a lot during that time. So playing him probably wasn't beneficial to them anyway.
Incidentally, Wayne, I don't mind you raining on my parade because that's why I get you on here, because I don't no good having people agree with one another. And I've got to. So once again, this is Tess. That's it's extraordinary. Well, now, so do you think the great Dustin Martin? Do you think he will appear up at the Gold Coast under his former coach, or do you think he's done?
I initially thought that he would 100% play again and play up on the Gold Coast, given that it's out of the fish. I won't say the fishbowl of Melbourne because there's so many teams here. But I guess when you play for Richmond and you're Dusty Martin, it certainly is. So would he escape it up there? I'll tell you what I've learned: when you're Dusty Martin or you're Sam Newman or you're I don't know Lee Matthews or I guess Buddy Franklin, and you're that sort of personality, it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to get attention. So for me, if Dusty Martin went to the Gold Coast, he's not hiding anywhere. He is the most probably recognisable. There's very few players that cross borders and are still recognisable. And unfortunately for Dusty, given his unique, very good-looking man, but his unique haircut and look,
and
very
ink,
recognisable.
And ink.
Well, that's all a part of it. So I'm not sure he'd be hiding too much on the Gold Coast.
No, but I didn't say he'd be hiding, mate. I'm just I've come up to far north Queensland here. Out of the fish tank, every second person knows who. Every second person knows who I am up here because most people are from Melbourne because they've come up to escape the winter. But I'm completely out of the loop. I have no idea what's going on down south.
Where has your boat been parked most of the time, Sam? Whereabouts in Queensland?
The Coral Sea Marina in Early Beach, and it's been fantastic. And we're about to come up.
Beach, I know there's a Colin Hounsell, I think it is.
Yes, Colin Hounsell. I've heard of him.
Yeah, ex Wagga boy. Yeah, he's a Wagga boy. He owns half of Early Beach.
Does he?
He does. Very successful man, builder, and done very well. But the reason why I asked where in Queensland, because. And as you said, everyone you run into from Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide or Sydney or somewhere, and a lot of people that go up, especially Gold Coast way, generally you're on the run. You're running from something if you move up that way. You're running from the law, or you're running from the girlfriend, or so it's a unique group that generally move up in those areas if they're from a different state. Not Colin Hounsell, obviously,
no.
But a lot of people you run into, you'll find out that they're generally hiding from something.
I'm going to take on board that one next I see people I know up here. I'm running from myself, mate. I ran away from myself down in Melbourne. I thought I got to get out. I got to get away from myself.
Well, I don't know whether you remember, Sam. I lived on the Gold Coast for about a year and a half, and I can be honest, I was running. I was, and like you, I was running from myself more than anything.
Fantastic.
And then reality hit, and I moved back to Melbourne.
Now, Wayne, this has been fantastic. I just want to now, just Joe Danaher. Did I take it that you thought Joe's he's got out on top, but did you think he should have got out, or that was did he have a great year, Joe Danaher, or is he a great footballer, Joe Danaher? Incidentally,
no, it's a good question.
Ask Tess.
Yeah,
ask Tess how you should answer that.
Is he a great footballer?
No, he's not a great footballer.
I'm prepared to say this. I think the word champion, and it gets thrown around far too easily. And geez, these days you only have to have half a good year, and you're demanding $1 million a year, and they're saying how good you are, and you get a 6-year contract, and you get better. You get better, obviously, once you retire, or you get better when your contracts run out, and it's because of the saturation and the media and how they talk about players and you only have to look at what's going on at the moment, and players demanding to get a certain payday, which, by the way, I'm rapt that they get that sort of money, but how it's driven through the media and they get better with time is, it's just oversold. And to answer your question about Joe, is he great? I don't think Joe's in the champion category. He's been a super player. He's been a very good player. He played very well in the grand final last year. They wouldn't have made the grand final this year. Therefore, they wouldn't have won it without Joe Danaher.
No, they wouldn't. Those 2 goals he kicked to get him in were extraordinary. Had he done a lot before that?
His year was good. I don't think it was very good. It was good. So
should he retired?
No. He does retire, I think, because I actually think the next 2 years he's probably been. He's had very good years. He's probably good to very good this year. He had a great final series. So he'd at least have 2 very good years left in him, I would have thought.
So it was a knee-jerk reaction to the euphoria of winning the trophy.
Well, if you believe Chris Fagan said that if they'd won the year before against Collingwood, he was going to retire that year.
Fagan was?
No.
Oh,
Joe Danaher was going to retire last year if they'd beaten Collingwood.
Oh, I see.
So decided to go on for another year, and now they've won it, and now he's pulled up stumps. I don't know. Call me pessimistic, but I think, and this is, I don't know why I've been thinking it, because it hasn't consumed a lot of my thoughts, but I think he might do a Johnny Farnham, and who knows, he might have a good rest over the summer, and then decide that what am I going to do, and I have got something left, and he might just unretire.
You're a long time out of the game.
You are. So watch this space. If he is to walk away forever, then I think he's certainly leaving at least 2 good years on the table.
Now, so speaking of having a good year, isn't it extraordinary that you can have a very good half? You can play. I'm about to cough. Excuse me. You can have.
Yep.
You can play very, very good games for half the year, and then some workmanlike games for the rest of it, and get 45 votes in the Brownlow medal. That is extraordinary.
Well, never been a massive fan of the Brownlow, Sam, and you know why?
I do.
Because I've never won one.
No, because players like you and Matthews and Madden and Nichols and Farmer and 70 other names never win because they don't.
I think what's happened, Sam, and to get back to your point at the start of when we chatted, at the start of the chat, the game, I love the game, AFL footy. I still think it's the best game in the world. Yes, it has changed from, when you played and when I played. It is a different game. I still think it's the best game. Unfortunately, the game is diluted. I don't think the game is as strong. Coaches will sit there and tell you it's stronger and better. I would argue that the Brisbane team of the Brisbane team of 1, 2, 3, won the 3 in a row. I think they'd beat any team playing today by 20 goals. So the game is, I think the game is diluted. We don't have as many good players in every team that spread the votes. Therefore, the better players in the comp are collecting more votes than what they did. It was more of an even spread years gone by, and that's why I think the votes have gone up in the Brownlow, because quite simply we have some unbelievably good midfielders, we have a couple of good forwards, and we have a couple of good defenders. That's about it.
Yeah. I made a mockery of it, 45 votes. That makes, this is not his fault, incidentally. I'm quick to say that. That makes him the best player. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
I'll give you, can I give you, I read somewhere after the Brownlow. By the way, I'm a massive Paddy Cripps fan, deserves the Brownlow. He's a superstar. Like you said, it's not his, to get 45 votes. But give you an example, I think Lee Matthews 74 or 75. Anyway, in the 70s, he had the same amount of possessions as Cripper.
Did he?
So same amount of possessions and kicked 91 goals and never won the Brownlow.
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
It puts it into context and played 5 less games.
No, so that is my point. They've made a mockery of it. But the umpires have made a mockery of it. But as it's a quaint award given by those very people. So we think that they don't get a hell of a lot right on the ground. Why would they get a lot right when they sit down off the ground?
Yeah,
something like that.
Know, I guess it is their award. They don't want to. That they've been asked to. Should they be able to look at certain things? For me, it's a difficult job, and you've worked in the media longer than anyone. And sometimes when you sit down and you have to give votes at the end of the game, in particular if you're playing a really good team and it's a team performance, it can be really hard to find 3, 2, 1. It really can. So how is the umpire meant to concentrate on giving decisions?
Yes, exactly.
And actually umpiring a game and then be able to give votes when it's hard enough sitting up in a box with nothing else to do other than if you're eat a party pie and watch the game. So it's
well done. You've saved my scathing attack on the umpires again. That's Tess coming to the fore again. Well, now Wayne, you mentioned the media. I'm going to ask you this. You were special comments, man. You were because of your credibility. Have you had any I don't know how long penance you have to pay, but surely someone like you have you had any overtures made by any media organisation about football to come back in and do it or write about it? I mean, how long does this go on? It is so obvious that the talent doing it is not... they're good people, but they're just not as capable probably as you when you had those positions.
Sam, once I refer back to you because you've been in the media longer than anyone that I know, and that is the media is full of, and whether it be ex-players or just people that have studied journalism during their informative college years, that there are good ones and there are bad ones, just like footballers. There are great ones, there are very good ones, just like footballers. And if you think about it like that, then I think it makes life a little bit easier when you hear or you see certain people within that industry that you mightn't agree with what they've said or not said. In terms of myself, I've never been happier being out of the media than I am right now. I've had my first the last 2 Easters I've been able to take the kids away, which I haven't been able to do since I was young because of my involvement in footy, and thoroughly enjoying, during that time, not having to, roll up every Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. So all your weekends consumed by a game that I love, but no longer enjoy sitting down watching every game from start to finish. In actual fact, I reckon I watched probably 3 games this year, 4 games. So if you include finals, maybe 6 or 7 from start to finish. I go on to KO Minis and I get my updates on KO Minis. And I don't know whether you heard this, Dan, but during the year when big Peter Wright got rubbed out, I said I will not watch footy for as long as, if he gets weeks, I will not watch footy for the time that he's rubbed out. He got 4 weeks. I didn't watch footy for those 4 weeks. And can you believe it? I still have flogs out there that think that I said I'll never watch footy again. And I still get people saying to me, you said you'll never watch footy. I mean, there's so many nuff-nuffs out there that don't listen. It's quite amazing. But I did give myself a 4-week suspension because of Peter Wright.
Well, fantastic. So you must have been well paid. Obviously, we were all well paid in the media. And when you played football, you're sustaining yourself. You're sustaining yourself okay in your life away from the media. I'm not
Yes,
asking you your financial means, but
No. I've got a roof over the head, Sam,
Yes.
and
we won't have to start a GoFundMe page or anything, will we?
no GoFundMe.
Maybe
page.
just to pay for Tess.
Yeah, mate. You know what? That'd be nice. No, Tess is very affordable, Sam. You probably give her a. I'll send you her details. I'll send Sue the details because then at least I'll know that she'll act upon it. And and who knows, Sue? I know she's listening. You might, let's be honest. I don't think even Tess could change Sam.
Well, that would be a challenge to throw out there, but we should get her on. We should get her actually on and do the subtle one of getting an interviewer and then see if he'll turn around.
We can't ask her about Wayne because that's
No, just
client
obviously
privilege.
General, why she changes and how she changes people or what she does. That'd be an interesting talk, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. How long is the podcast meant to go for?
I tell you what.
Maybe a 2-year series.
I tell you what, Wayne, we've filled in the best part of an hour chatting. I could chat to you for another hour. You're a fascinating person for whatever reason, and I've really enjoyed this, mate, and I appreciate you coming on and speaking to us on You Cannot Be Serious. You're a star, mate. I don't care. I do care what people say, but it doesn't matter what people say. You're a star, and that's it.
Good on you, Sam. Appreciate it, and I love the podcast, and look forward to catching up with you guys soon. Safe travels, and
All the best, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.